The world won't understand you. Hey, but it's okay. Said the world won't understand you. Cause I made you in my own way. Said the world won't understand you. Cause I made you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 91 of In a Good Way podcast. Today's special guest is Gina Cavalier. Did I pronounce it right?
Yep, that's right.
Okay, perfect. Gina Cavalier is a mental health advocate, author, filmmaker, artist, speaker, spiritual teacher, and host of the Liberated Healer podcast. She has secured 2 publishing deals with her first book as a co-author and illustrator, Surviving Suicidal Ideation, From Therapy to Spirituality, and the lived experience coming out in June 26th of 2024. Oh, okay, so that's beautiful. So you have a new book coming out?
Yeah, so thank you for this opportunity and co-creating some space with me today to share some, building community and sharing the good vibes. I really appreciate that. 91, I love that you say the number because I love numerology, and 9 and 1 is 10. So 1 is a new beginning. And so I feel like that is really resonates for our energy today. So I got a book deal last year, and I had suicide ideation for most of my life, on and off, depending on what was going on. Was never really a depressive person. I just didn't feel connected to the planet and my purpose for being here. And when life events happened, I got overwhelmed, and I felt everything in the world. I just felt so much. And I just finally decided I wanted to fix that. It was a long journey. It took me like 15 years. And so now I really want to, help people find tools to shorten that time span if they're in the same space, and know that they don't have to live the rest of their life with suicidal ideation, which can be a feeling of death sentence in itself if you live your entire life like that, right? We don't want to leave the planet having to be our whole experience. So I through this process kind of had an almost a lot of an awakening of sorts, and really connected to my higher self, and started channeling guides and started to find what my life purpose was. And when I found my life purpose, all the ideation fell away. I felt connected to everything, connected to all. And I just see everything as an opportunity of learning and healing and love. And gosh, my life has never been the same. It's almost like I feel like I'm living a whole different version of myself. And I got this book deal. I asked somebody was on my podcast if they'd write it with me, because she's a trauma-informed therapist, Dr. Amelia Kelly, because I knew that I'm not very educated, and I felt just my experience and my techniques wouldn't be a 360 view. And I wanted people to, have the therapeutic side to it, and maybe intellectualize what's happening. Why might this be happening to them? And I felt like in my healing, when I may intellectualize things and understood maybe what might be happening. Oh yeah, of course I feel like this. I talk to myself like crap all day long. No wonder, it's this cycle of energy. So, and then I got Swedenborg Foundation to publish it, which was like a dream to come true for me. And then they asked me to illustrate, and then I wound up having 30 illustrations in it. And now I did the cover. It's like my whole life changed, because it's like a dream come true. And then I had another publisher say, we wanted that book. Do you have anything else? And I was like, yep. So I have another book due in 3 months. And I'm doing a documentary. I'm building an app. And I started Suicidal Ideation Anonymous, which is modeled like AA, which I am trying to get grants for right now. But I think it's going to change how we look. I think this is going to be amazing, having a place where people can come and talk about their thoughts, and they're not scared. And because the numbers are staggering. It's a public health epidemic, and way more than COVID ever was. It's so interesting how this is an epidemic, and it's tragic, but it doesn't get as much coverage. It doesn't get as much support. there's nowhere the numbers of people dying that they died in COVID, but for some reason, this doesn't get a lot of attention. So I think it's just time to put some attention around it. And do it in a way that's lighter, bringing levity towards it. It's serious, but we don't have to talk about it as dark. We can talk, because we're talking to the people who are experiencing it on and off usually. And we can talk about it with levity and normalize the conversation. And when you normalize the conversation, it takes it out of the darkness.
Absolutely. No, and I mean, I guess we jump right into it, right? But okay, because I know if I start, we're gonna just stay on this topic. Okay, let me go back a little and ask you at least what prevented you from doing it? Like, so when you were going through it, what was it exactly? Or did you have any attempts, or how did it go for you? Like with I guess if we're gonna talk about this subject, then let's talk about it.
I don't know if you know music, but my first husband is in a band called Flogging Molly. He's the singer of Flogging Molly. They're like an Irish punk band. His name's Dave King. Anyways, I had an attempt when he threatened to leave me when I was in my 20s. And it was sort of like, I had alcohol in me. I thought he was really leaving. We were just having a big fight. I just pulled a knife out and I did it. And I really kind of didn't think it was going to happen. And so it was a sort of attempt, but it did cause some damage, and I had to go to the doctor and things like that. And it was really scary, but it wasn't scary enough for me to get help. And I think because I was a very driven person and my career meant a lot to me. And I was very afraid that once I started talking about it, that I would just be labeled as crazy or labeled as the girl was, I was already labeled in my life because I was blonde and blue eyes, to be honest. Everybody loves to label everybody for some reason. And they were like, you're the cute girl who can help with accounts, be the, things like that. And I was like, no, I have aspirations to do other things than what you see me as. But so I was very fearful that I would lose my career, that I would be now labeled as a crazy woman, or and it would hurt, and I would lose job prospects, or I would get locked away, or whatever all the fears are, right? And so that was the last thing I was going to do, is tell anybody my dark secret about that, and what happens is as you carry that pain inside of you, if you don't heal it, it's just going to stay in there and grow. It's like mold, or so I secretly healed it. And then once I healed it, I only told one person in my life, and they said, I talked to my husband about it, and sorry, I can't help you because I'm not a doctor. Go get it. And for some reason that just locked me up, because it took me so much energy to tell that one person. And I did have a therapist on and off, and I never told him. And this is a staggering stat, 45% of people who kill themselves saw their primary care physician or therapist 1 month before they committed suicide, and they never told their doctor. 45%. So half the people in therapy who are suicidal still don't tell their doctor, and they're in therapy because these are real fears. So it's totally normal and natural. I'm sure they feel the same way I did. Yeah,
absolutely. No, and it's funny right now. You made me, because I was talking about it once with a therapist that I wanted to interview, but she didn't end up. I guess, I don't know. I think she changed her mind. But well, because it's mostly spiritual stuff, right? But I wanted to get a therapist to talk about like mental health as well, right? I have had others, but there was a certain one, and I remember I kept saying, like, because my brother took his life. Right, he took his life.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so so it was funny when I was watching your interviews, I got triggered a lot.
Oh my.
But but I know it'll help people, so it's fine. Like I get it, right? It obviously, I was like, oh man, I already know, like, doing this interview, but I was like, it's okay. Yeah. So it's all right. No worries.
Yeah.
but what do you call it? Yeah, he did it in 2019, so it's still like it's not like, you know, but no, but it happened. So, anyways, I remember. So I was talking to this lady, and she noticed. I guess I kept saying he took his life, and she's like, oh, she's like, and that's good that you say that. And she said because they were trying to get people out of the habit of saying committed suicide, because she's like, even that word, it's almost like you committed a crime, right? So I guess she realized that she was like, oh, I was like, oh, I just did that naturally, but I never thought about it. I was like, but wow, that's amazing. Who knows? It probably comes from the church days, right? Where they said, oh, it's a sin, committed a
Interesting.
sin,
Yeah.
committed. So if you commit suicide, you're gonna burn in hell and this and that
Yeah.
because of that. And
No.
yeah. So, anyways, but I mean, there's a whole spirit. I won't go into my story, but just I guess that reminded me of that, right? Like of
Yeah.
that.
And
But
so you have a spiritual question about the connection of spirits, how something
no,
about
no. But you could share whatever. No, no, you could share whatever. Yeah.
so the way that I understand it, my second book is going to have this in there, and it's going to be I'm actually going to illustrate how it all happens. So it's not going to be like all words. It's going to be mostly illustrations, which
Oh,
I
wow.
think is going to be, it's sort of a new, like there's no book in the world that's going to be like it actually, because I'm going to be explaining some spiritual concepts and then I'm going to illustrate it. And it's for people who, people have short attention spans, and it's just all these books, just so many words, and sometimes a piece of art can really just envelop you. But from my understanding is there are some people that come in just that they've chosen to exit their life in that contract for that. They're saying, I'm going to come in for a little bit. I don't really want to be on earth that long. This is something I need to experience. I'm going to experience that. And it's going to help the other soul clusters in my family through certain things. But I can, and it doesn't happen a lot, to be honest, but there are some that do that. And so I can see that he came in and said, no, that is not your sole purpose. That is not your contract. That is not, stop that progress. That was mine. And I'm okay now. And I have another thing I'm working on into the next time I decide to planet walk, is what I've been calling it lately, which I think is kind of fun.
I
But
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And see, and like in my case, there was at least twice that I thought about it before. So that was like the third time. And I think that's probably the final time that they were like, okay, this is the last time we're stepping in, because there were two other times that I had decided, and I had divine intervention, literally. Like, if it wasn't for that, I would have done it. I think they saw like, oh, he's going to
Oh,
do it.
thank God.
Yeah, yeah. No,
I'm so
but
excited though. That is so beautiful. Yay. It
no.
works. It works. If you are open to receiving those communications, that's why I did the therapy, spirituality, and lived experience, because some people really want to hear the philosophical and the really grounded earthly type of things like therapy. For me, what really helped me was my spirituality, because I feel like the themes that I hear people say is, I feel disconnected from everything. I feel like I don't belong here, whatever reason, but that's sort of the common theme, right? They don't feel like they have a purpose. They haven't met their loved one. They don't feel like they belong in any social circles. They don't like the way they look. I mean, it's always this disconnection, right? So the one thing spirit will do, and you can probably attest to this, is it makes you feel connected. It makes you see that we're all connected, and it makes you see how divine your own individual soul is and how beautiful it is. And then when you really get connected to that, you don't want to extinguish that for anything. And that's actually the easy key that I could say is how you heal suicidal ideation. When you build that back up, there's no way you will harm yourself, because you see how valuable you are. You see you can not just see it, you feel it, you are it, you live it. And so everything living in the world, the one key thing in reality is that the goal is to live, right? And I'll use like a flower as an example, and we're like a flower, but a flower, when it grows, right, it is a living thing. its whole thing is like, oh, I got to move here to get the sun. Oh, I need a little bit more water, you know. Oh, this soil is terrible. I have to grow more roots to get better soil, right? So the constant thing is its goal is to live, right? But then when it's realizing it's not going to live anymore, and it starts to, you know, it's dying. When you watch a flower die, right? What it does is before it's going to die, it pushes all of its seeds out.
Wow.
So the seeds pop out and it goes to the ground so life can begin again.
Wow.
Right? So that is the whole circle that we're here for. And we're just like that flower. So once you realize, like, no, go to the light, you know, whatever you need to do to survive. And that's why I have all these videos. It's like, what do you need in your toolkit to build that synapse with your soul again? Is it exercise? Is it water treatment? Is it therapy? Is it music? What's going to get you to reconnect and see your blueprint and see why you're here and build that again? Because your real goal is to survive. And you shouldn't be to think about not surviving and unaliving yourself. It shouldn't be that way. So, and once you build that, honestly, I can't even talk bad about myself because it's almost like I've reprogrammed my entire being. As soon as a negative thought that maybe would come in, something comes in and says, that's not you anymore. Bye. And I just move on. Not like I deal with conflicts differently now. I deal with obstacles differently now. They used to take me down. For example, like if I had a conflict with a friend and it was like bad, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna lose another friend that I really love, or something's not right, you know, and this is an unfixable friendship. I would get so sad because I didn't want to lose another person in my life. Now I can look at it and say, well, maybe that relationship lived its life out. Maybe we got out of it what we needed. Maybe instead of me taking all the pain, like I'm a bad person, I did something wrong. It's like I see it as a whole thing, and what the lessons were and what the inside of that relationship, and I can let it go with more love. Because, you know, my background was I had traumatic childhood abuse. So automatically I had an unworthiness. It was my fault. I did something wrong. And so I retrained my brain to say, no, it's not my fault, you know? And so conflicts and obstacles come to our life every single day for all of us. I don't care where you are, politician, celebrity, and you know, it doesn't matter. We all have conflict, right? It's how we deal with the conflict. And so we have to almost teach ourselves, you know, because what happens when you're really traumatized, it's like one more thing is going to push me over the edge. One more friend I lose is going to push me over the edge. One more hateful comment on social media is going to push me over the edge. So that's going to happen. You know, we can't control or change everybody else around us. We can only control and change ourselves. So for real, you know, for long term. So what are the tools that are going to make me not go down that dark path? What are going to tell myself, stop talking to yourself like that? That's not true. Because if you lived in my head for a while, you would have done it too. I mean, it was nasty the way I talked to myself. I didn't talk to anybody else that way. I didn't talk to my animals that way. I didn't treat my boss like that. I didn't treat my family member like that. Why am I talking to myself like that? And then you start to go, and you don't do it with shame. You just go, no more. I got to love myself. I got to talk to myself as well as I do any other person. And you start building that love for yourself. And a lot of people, I ask, do you love yourself? And they're like, I don't know. And not really. You know, what's in there? So, yeah. So finding ways to really fall in love with yourself. I am so in love with myself. It's ridiculous. And
your dog even looked at you and he was like,
and it's crazy. I love myself. And I mean, it's just really kind of funny. I'm like, yeah, people go, you're so this and that. I'm like, yeah, thank you. Like, it's like, I'll take it. I know, you know, but not in a conceited way. I very much care for myself now. And I put myself first. I put my mental health first. If something comes my way, I just say, I need a minute, or I need a mental health day, or, hey, my mental health comes first. I need to get back to you on that. I'm open about that. I would have never done that before. It's like, taking on that job or taking on that day or go to a meeting that I knew was going to throw me over the edge or something like that. Now I'm like, no, my mental health is number one, the most important thing.
Wow. So I know you said like it's I guess just for anyone that's watching that's I guess going through that. So did you figure out who, like you said, why were you talking to yourself like that? Was it because others talked to you like that and it just stayed recorded like a loop in your head? Or so that's basically what it was, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be in the book because people wanted to hear the story, but my dad was very physically abusive yeah, so and then is the unworthiness, why did I get into this family, whatever it is, and we all have this like some whatever it is. There's small trauma and then there's big trauma, and that's where the therapists are really good at. But I like homeopathic. I like to add a lot of homeopathy. So what I've realized is that you're a whole ball of wax, right? So you really have to, and you have to like journal, and you have to go, okay, well, what's my diet look like? If I'm eating Coke and French fries every day and ingesting a bunch of like lard all the time or whatever into my body's having a hard time process. Like your diet is a really big deal of inflammation. Is there mold in the house? Is there toxins in the house? Do I live next to a chemical plant? Am I eating a lot of meat with antibiotics in it? Am I getting any sleep? Sometimes if you have really bad sleep patterns, I had bad sleep patterns because my dad used to wake me up, like kind of to hit me. So I would wake up all the time in the middle of the night and scared all the time. Like I was, so sleep has been a huge issue for me. So now I have a practice, like I have a little iPod and I put on meditation music low or ocean sounds, and it really keeps my equilibrium, because I realize sound for me is a big healer. And I have a whole playlist of, if I'm feeling depressed or funky, all my favorite songs that help me pull out of a funk, whether it's like the Bee Gees or like Santana or like whatever I need, right? And it just gets me going, or things like that. So it's really a whole ecosystem. There could be, say if you've been medicated and some people get on medication, they're starting to give psychiatric medication as early as 3 years old now.
What?
Yeah. And sometimes they're on them for years, like forever, right? And it's like, well, you've been on the psychiatric medicine for 10 years. You're only supposed to be on it for a year. You know what I mean? Like you have to really go, are you drinking a lot of alcohol? Are you having alcohol? Alcohol is a huge depressant that people promote constantly. Go, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't drink, but I still want to go out with my friends. Well, have a mocktail for a month, so you can still go out with your friends and still feel social, but see if that works and go, you know what? I'm less depressed. I realize that alcohol really affects me. I have a limit that I will have, and I will only have it very few times a month if I want to be social. So I don't want to completely out, I want to have a balanced life. So I don't want to say I can't ever do that, but I'm very cognizant that it does contribute to my depression or feeling anxiety. So, but only you can really do that, to list that out. And so it's like, really look at yourself. Do you have toxic people in your life? Do you have horrible boundaries? Because people that come from abusive childhood, they have terrible boundaries, right? They don't know how to say, I'm not going to let you talk to me like that. I have that boundary now. That was so hard to build. It was like, but now it's like, and I do it in a calm way. It's like, I'm sorry, I don't let people talk to me that way anymore, and they're like, oh, okay. But do I need to create new boundaries? So it's really like taking a look. But the good thing is, like, once you start to get some awareness, you go, oh, you start to feel proud of yourself, and you're that little bit that, just say it would be like reducing alcohol. You start to go, I'm doing something for me, and then you do something else. You know what? I think I need to go on a walk. I think I need, what? I never exercise. You know what? I'm on social media 6 hours a day, or I watch television 6 hour days. Or what kind of TV are you watching? Is it, American Horror Society? And then before you go to bed, and then you're like going to bed and you're having nightmares. and then you feel like crap the next day, and then you go, and then you're like, oh, you know, you start to go down this road, and then you're like, well, you don't think that maybe it was the, you know, the movie about all the devils? I mean, honestly, that goes into your subconscious. It has an energy, you know. So you know, I just very careful with what I watch. I might watch a psychological thriller that's not too crazy, but I won't watch like slasher movies like that takes me back to some kind of trigger, you know. Just, you know, it's like I won't allow that in my space. It does affect me, and I built those awarenesses, you know. So you have more control than you think you do.
Absolutely. So let's segue into that then. I
Okay.
know you're psychic as well, right?
Yeah, I'm actually, and this is going to be in my second book, where I'm going to teach, and I'm writing that right now, but it's going to teach people how to find their life path, because there's really only, it's broken out into 30 different categories actually, and you only have like 2. And mine is a cipher, and I didn't even know what a cipher was. So a cipher is someone that gets downloaded informations that are sort of code, and then they have to decode it and then share it with other people. So and then my second one is a caregiver, like a carer, like I'm care for the world. So it just fits me perfectly. So and I show in the book how to find these, but and there's all different kinds of ones, but once you kind of really hone in on like what your talent is, and I realize that, now I can, like, it helps you narrow the focus, right? And I say, yeah, so that is my focus. I'm a decipher, almost like I'm supposed to, there's different like people that are supposed to channel different messages. Some people are just psychic. Some people are supposed to be a trans channel to help give messages to other people. I'm supposed to create tools and share them with people to heal themselves, because people are suffering all over the world, and the reason why is because as we've gotten, part of it is as we've gotten more modern, as we've gotten more money, as we've gotten more medication, the world has gotten more depressed, more separate. You know, 200 years ago or whatever, actually spirituality was our first thing. You know, everywhere. It wasn't religion. I'm talking about spirituality. We were like, we had a community. Everybody had a role in the community. When we had to kill an animal, we respected that animal, and we ingested it and used it in ways that were beneficial to the whole. You know, we didn't have that, because I'm in my documentary, I'm exploring when did all the suicide start to happen, because actually the only time there was really suicide back in, like, you're talking about like 1600s, 1700s for the most part, was when you were a POW, like a prisoner of war, or you had maybe some illness or something like that. People were not, you know, the age ranges right now, that the fastest growing age range for suicide is 10 to 14.
Wow.
This is 911. It's a public health crisis. We need to save the children, especially, you know, so this is very important. But like, what happened? You didn't see that a couple hundred years ago, 10-year-olds doing this, right? So something has to change. So we need as much information and tools out there for the individual who might not have insurance, who doesn't want to tell anybody. That's what, you know, so buy the workbook, do the work on your own, get the safety plans, or, you know, figure out how to heal yourself, because you're the only one that's with you 24/7. We don't want to lose another person. We don't want to lose you. None of you at all. We're all in a way mini suffering, you know, but with bringing levity and joy and love, understanding who we are, we all have a life path. We all have a purpose.
But, you know, to me, like, because the same, I started studying it because I think, you know, the first time it hit me was when I was young, and it was from like that, right? Like I would get bullied a lot, like beat up like every day for, you know, but anyways, so I started looking it up after, right? Like after I wanted to know. And then that's when it was like, I saw the statistics back then that double the people were taking their own life than were getting murdered. So I was like, how does that make any sense? Just in the US, right? So we're not even talking about the world. Just in the US, double the people were taking their own life than getting murdered. So to me, I was like, oh, I'm not gonna be a part of that statistic. So then you know, that was like, I mean, the extent of my research as far as that. But as I got older, like even when I went to college, right, and I took like advertising, marketing, promotions, right, that kind of stuff, they said the average person, this was before they even really started marketing on cell phones, that the average person would see about 1,000 ads a day. And I learned like the amount of money spent on learning the colors that trigger you, the graphics that trigger you. So constantly a human being in the age of now is getting, and this was 1,000 advertisements a day before really cell phones, right? So imagine nowadays, like the average person is probably getting 2,000 advertisements, and the advertisements entire goal is to brainwash you to get that product. So imagine your brains is going like, I need this, I need that, I need that, and even little kids. So of course there's a health crisis, a mental health crisis.
It feels abusive sometimes, you know.
Well, it is. It's
like
invasive.
You're scrolling and they're like, "Why are you yelling at me?"
Yeah, no, it's invasive. It's like they just showed that McDonald's literally spent, I don't know, and they were bragging about it. Like it was a good thing, how to advertise to you while you're asleep, how to put advertisements. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you could Google it or something, you know, and then so they literally put how they can start putting ads. Think about the people that are gonna, like, either they're gonna eat themselves to death or something, but it's gonna mess them up. So
I honestly, like, I feel kind of bad for the people that are having to work in those type of environments, because that's actually karma that you're taking on. You know, what you do for a living matters, and what you're contributing in the world matters. Yes, the spirits and your soul understands that you need to have abundance and you need money. But I mean, and I think I've really realized I feel like there's a shift happening where there is an awakening that what we do matters and how we contribute. You know what, if you, and I was in the entertainment business for 25 years, and I would not work on like horror films and stuff like that. I just couldn't do it. Like, and I would just say, no, can you please reassign me to, so they put me on like the Harry Potters and the Fantastic Beasts and stuff like that. And then my other, the other people are getting like, the Nun and all that stuff. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to read it. I'm going to watch it. But because I knew I didn't agree with putting that out in the world, because I just didn't think we needed it anymore. There is a darkness. There's darkness. Darkness is real. It's not as powerful as a light. But I always contribute. I always explain darkness is this, like, if you look at a lake, the sediment at the bottom of the lake, that is what darkness is. So it is low level and it's always there, but it's not as powerful as the rest of the lake, right? But it wants to muck you up. I mean, that's the job of the sediment, right? And that's part of like healing suicidal ideation, is recognizing the spiral of the down and the spiral of the up with emotions. Is it fear, jealousy, competition, resentment, anger, like all that stuff? That's all down. That's all the sediment, right? And if you're going to hold all that stuff, and then, I'm going to get them online, I'm going to like, you are in that energy as you're doing that. And then you're like, why I feel like shit? Well, you just spouted 15 horrible messages, even though you're just trying to say your view on things, because people can come from a good place, but don't realize that they're still throwing hate onto people, right? Especially online. You carry that with you. These keyboard warriors, that they go in there and they want to like just like ruin people's lives because they didn't agree with them and things like that. That is, they're still getting, they're in the sediment and they're taking that with them. And not only are they taking that with them, it spills over into their family, into their children. So if you even don't love yourself maybe right now, think about the people that love you and the people around you and what you're bringing to the home. So I really have taught myself, like, I'll see something that I really can't, like, I'll just like, if my comment is really, do I have to do that comment right now? And sometimes I do, but most of the times, 99%, I say, nah, I've got other things to do. I want to change the world in a positive way. I'm not going to let anything change my mission. I want to help someone today. So but but that practice has been really good for me because now I don't pay attention to that stuff as much. But there's people in the practice to daily go in, look at comments, respond, especially with politics and stuff. None of that is, really helpful, and it's not helping you or the community. And as we realize that, you might be pushing someone else over the edge. And you know what? That's your karma to hold. Honestly, you have to be careful of what you put out in the world. You might be really harming somebody that's the last thing they can handle that day. And I try to think of it like that. And then I go, is it worth that? And I go, no, I don't want to hurt someone really.
Some people do though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
you know that
if you build that awareness as a practice, then you just do that more, because then you realize it's so stupid. I'm not going to be a part of that low level stuff. And I like to use the word sediment because it helps you decide what energy you're going to be in. Do you want to be at the sediment at the bottom of the lake, or you want to be where the fish and the light is and the water, the sparkly water,
Yeah. Let me ask you real quick. What were you doing in the entertainment industry?
Well, I was in it for like 25 years. So I did everything from sound to marketing to, all kinds of things. And I was really depressed while I worked there because a lot of times it was, I got the title I wanted. I worked at the place I wanted. And then I got there and I was like, oh, I made it, and then I was like, I don't feel any different. I don't feel any better. I thought that getting this title and that salary was going to change my life. And then I go to meetings and it was like, I even told my boss, and I go back to the flower analogy for some reason. I said, why did you pick the brightest flower in the field? I was working at Warner Brothers. It was like a 4-month interview, right? 400 applicants. And they finally boiled it down to me. And then when I got there, they were basically told me to shut up all the time. Go in the corner. Well, go in the corner. You're learning. I'm like, I've been doing this for 15 years. I know, like, why would you pick someone with as much experience as me and then tell me to go in the corner? And it was a part of the controlling nature of the department. And I'm not all departments are like this, but to control me so I wouldn't become an out-of-box thinker. They love to train you to be inside your little box. And what happens is a lot of people, especially if they have children or they start to really rely on that salary and the benefits, they're like, I can't be myself right now. I can't speak my mind right now because it's going to change a dynamic. My boss doesn't like that. My boss don't like that. You know what I mean? And what happens is they get, a lot of people there was getting cancer, a lot.
Wow.
Because actually cancer, a lot of doctors will say this, that cancer is pretty much 99% created by mostly stress.
Wow.
So then you get stressed, and all of them are going out on cancer leave. And it's like, I kept going, there goes another one, of course, because they're not able to speak their mind. There's no, they gain a lot of weight. And then they feel really stuck, and it almost just feels like you're in a self-imposed prison. And you're not, and then you just start to rely on the money. And so now your life is all about a paycheck. And, you see so many miserable people living that life, and they're just like, okay, I'm going to leave in a year. They try to plan it out, and it's just no way to live. And I'm not saying all entertainment's like that and all departments are like that, but there was a big number of people that would come to me and just be like, man, it was a lot.
What department were you in?
I was in integrated marketing.
Oh, so you were
for feature
marketing.
films. Yeah.
Wow.
I worked at Disney for 3 years. I worked at Fox in product placement. And I love being around creativity, right? So when I was a kid, I loved movies, right? They informed me. It was every movie I can remember, it was like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then when I got into the entertainment business, it just was like, oh, I made it. And then it was like, just kind of like, Mean Girls. And it was really hard. And there wasn't a rainbow at the end that I was hoping for. And it didn't help me. It made me feel worse, actually. So I think if you become a whole person, though, and have whatever it is, whether, even if you're an atheist, say, you know what I mean? But as long as you're, because when I speak to more of an atheist person, I talk about energy, and they can understand energy is quantum physics. Like we are energy, right? So some people might say, I'm not very spiritual. Well, then think of it as energy. You know what I mean? Because quantum physics, we know that's real. I mean, there's a lot of really good geniuses out there that have books about energy, right? I don't have to do that. But look at it as energy then, good energy, bad energy. You know, do you want to live, you know, we can't deny that anymore, can we? I know at the bottom. So just go in whole. And you know, I used to teach people at the studios too. Because what a lot of them try to do is they try to control you and take your seniority away. So it's like what happens when you give away your seniority is like that's the boss. And what happens is you start to energetically almost believe that they're more important than you spiritually. They're not. Nobody is. We're all the same, right? So even though like you're a coordinator and your boss is a VP, you energetically or spiritually or either or, whichever, you still have to raise up energetically and not take the lower seat. Just because you're a lower level employee does not mean you're a lower level person. So you constantly have to go, nope, I'm still have my values. I still know who I am. Don't give that up. Don't let them put you in a box. Don't take on projects that go below your ethics of what you want to put out in the world. You just say, I can't work on that project. Can you give that to someone else? You know? And then they're going to go, what? You know? But you can go to sleep at night, not putting out that kind of horror movie or whatever, you know, and just say, I just have to sleep with myself, you know, that, you know, I'm not putting out The Exorcist out there, you know, and because those things hold energy. Those are the movies that, you know, Jeffrey Dahmer was watching all those movies, you know what I mean? Like playing it on repeat in his house, you know, things like that. It's true. It's energy. Huh?
I didn't know that.
It's in yeah. I forget. I think it was Exorcist. Like somebody's going to go, no, it was this, but it was some kind of movie like that he would play when he would get into this mindset before he would do the things that he was doing. And wow. I mean, I think that's just a really good indicator that stuff like energy is like energy.
Yeah.
You just, you bring what you are, you're around what you are, you know, yeah. What I teach is something that I think is really important right now. It's on my website, theliberatedhealer.com, but it's meditation, but it's a specific meditation that grounds you and helps run your energy to clear out the stuck energy. And it really saved my life. I do it immediately when I wake. I do it all throughout the day, but when I teach it to people, usually they have a profound experience. They just, they just fly out like young kids, tears fly out. And then I show them like their energy and they get really connected really fast. And it's just so beautiful, but the grounding is really important. Say if you were going to get pulled over, you know, and you have these techniques, you ground first, right? Because that makes you strong. So I always use this analogy. It's really interesting. When people hear this, they get it. So when you're building a house, like, and the contractor comes, an electrician, to put in all the wires in the house, right? The first thing they do is they add a grounding to the ground, right? Because if they didn't add that grounding to the core, then the energy would not be contained in the house. It would be all over the place. We're exactly the same. And with all the cement, and we've lost all of our natural ability to ground because we're not as spiritual anymore. But when you ground and you use these techniques, and there's all different, they call it earthing or grounding. But when you ground, it really gives you this solid, like firm thing. And I would practice and I would ground myself before meetings, and I would just kind of hold the seniority. I'd run my energy. And it was so funny because I'd be in these really important meetings with like all the top executives of Warner Brothers, and I would ground and I would hold my space, and people would all of a sudden turn to me, what do you think about that, Gina? And I'd be like, I was literally only a manager at that point. And I was like, and I was on the sideline. I wasn't even in the important table. And people are like, why are they asking her? You know? And it's because I had seniority. And people could feel that I was carrying myself like with my chest up, and that I was there and I was present. Being present, it also when you're like in the moment, because a lot of times people live in the past or in the future, but grounding will make you present to the moment. And then people can't help but notice. I mean, people just notice me when I'm walking in places now because I'm super grounded. But then I would practice and unground myself or unground the room, like unground everybody, and it was just chaos. And I just would practice things like that. And so I just find it, it's a really good tool. It's another thing you can add to your toolbox, because we just all need these tools now. And what works for us individually is really important. But grounding works for everybody. It's really important. And look it up on my channel or anybody else's channel, grounding or earthing. It's such an amazing tool. It helps your body release the things that aren't serving you. And it's just like, it calms you down. Earth is very calming. It's true, like earth energy. That's why if you have panic attacks and you don't do this, like take your shoes off, go put your feet in ground in actual soil, and just and imagine that soil kind of going up and around your feet. You will start to feel better. And what's happening is just like that house. Instead of all the energy going like this, you'll start to collect it and it'll start to calm down.
No, absolutely. When I started having anxiety, someone recommended that, and I even have a grounding blanket that I sleep on. So,
and I have a grounding mat under my keyboard that I bought on Amazon for $25.
Yeah.
Like I touch it all day long. It just constantly grounding me. Yeah,
absolutely. And I wanted to make sure to ask you this, because even that, right? Like after my brother passed, that's when I found out, like, even the statistics, right? Like almost double the men take their life than women. So were you able to dive into like the causes of I mean, I know the causes, but I would love for you to share what you've learned about it.
Well, it's 80% men. So yeah, it's 20%.
I thought it was like, okay, wow.
Yeah, it's 80% men, 20% females. They're trained not to verbalize themselves that much. It's like a teapot. So if you don't let the steam out, it's just going to explode a lot more. 55% is actually done by a firearm. So it is a firearm, unfortunately. And that, areas where gun laws, are wide open, like they have more access to it. So they're up there a little bit more. I really believe it's and a lot of military. So there's a lot of men in the military.
My brother was in the military for 20 plus years. So
yeah, the military is really suffering bad. They're putting a lot of money. I just opened up a nonprofit called Suicidal Ideation Anonymous. That's going to be a lot like AA, but online. So I'm trying to get grants right now so people can just, they don't even have to put their name up. They don't have to put their video camera on. They just logged into a Zoom and they can hear other people and they can talk about it and things like that. But we need to just, be able to have these open channels. I mean, I get overwhelmed because there's so much money going to so many different things. Like we were talking about earlier, and this is a public health crisis. Why is there's not more programs? 988 is okay, but there's issues with that. A big percentage of people that were interviewed afterwards said they wouldn't use it again.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And, I don't want to say, it's hard to say that because I want people to use it if it's there, but, we just need more programs. We need more money going there. We need more programs. We need to bring the conversation out of shadows. We need people to be educated about what are, if what happens, if something happened, I mean, nobody really talks about it. It's so in the shadows.
No, absolutely. But see, culture, like you said, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, right? Obviously, we're taught as men not to, even right now, right? When I was talking about that, like but even just holding that in, right? I mean, even right now when I was talking about, I was like, why did I say that? I should delete talking about that, right? See, it's still in there about like, it doesn't feel right to even talk about these things, right? Because it's
I think it's really interesting because I honestly, I didn't have that experience. So I like actually hearing your experience, because I need to remember, you know, that's why I told my story in my book. You know, even the Swedenborg Foundation was saying we need to add more times, more things that about your story, because I was like, well, I don't want to chew up the scenery and make it all about me. They're like, well, it is about you.
Yeah.
But I'd like to hear, I didn't have that experience. So now I'm being remembered about like a whole other generation in an area that people might be experiencing that. I need to know, I need to think about that once in a while. I need to remember, have some context. So I appreciate that, because I didn't have to have that kind of experience. So it's, when you're talking about it, I'm like, wow, yeah, that's how, you know, a kid probably coming out, just however old we are, but, constantly have to look around and go, well, there's the gangs over there and the cops want me over here. And, and having to navigate that, like, I think we need to have those conversations. So I appreciate that. I never really thought about that as that much.
Well, because then I thought about it like it's almost like a suicide in a different way, right? Because then
Yeah.
you're like you become that, right? To where you just rather, so I don't know, it's a whole another level to it, right? Because you rather not. At some point I said I'd rather die than be afraid. So then after that, like there were even times where like a gangbanger pulled out a gun and I ran towards it and then they started running away. But that's not gonna happen with everybody, right? A lot of times, 9 times out of 10, maybe that person would have shot. Like, oh, you're running at someone with a gun, they're gonna shoot you. But I was just so angry that that's it. Like, I don't care if it's a cop, I don't care if it's a gangbanger, I don't
Yeah.
care. Like, so there were
Well,
things that flipped.
I do have one friend, Zach Scow. He owns an animal rescue called Marley's Mutts. And he built a prison program where, and this is fascinating, he built a prison program where he would bring, I think, like 18 dogs, and he would assign 18 to 18 prisoners. And the videos on there, I'm getting chills all over it. Maybe I'll send it to you and you can link it in here. But it's really easy to find Zach Scow, the prison project. But the interviews with the prisoners about how that animal, and because they teach them how to be animal trainers in this program, but they have all these rescue dogs that have no homes because they're trying to train the animals so they can become adoptable. But in that exchange of giving them a something that they can learn and be proud of, and that they're helping an innocent creature who doesn't have a voice, there's a huge shift that happens. Huge shift. And they go to that soft space, and you see all these prisoners crying, please adopt my little dog, like, he changed my life. And
crazy.
that's why I like to go back, like, we are all this beautiful light, no matter what color it is or where we came from and the different places in our background. I see everybody as a spark of light that I don't want to get extinguished. But even though we all have different colors and stories, it's like all of them, all these prisoners who, probably came from just a wildly abusive life. What do you expect them to go into? They're just trying to survive, right? But a lot of these guys come out of prison and now they all become dog trainers, and they make a lot of money, and they are so proud of themselves, and they have a vocation, and just check it out. And it's so inspiring, but so there's always a way, no matter what the background and story is, though. When I was really depressed, I actually went and volunteered there. It was I was very suicidal. I was on the very edge. I was like, really did not feel like I wanted to be at all anymore. I actually sold my house. I started giving away all the proceeds of my money. I was paying for my friends' lawyers and their animal bills, and I was just like, I don't even care.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm pretty bad. So I'm going to go volunteer at an animal shelter. Like, I love animals, and I always have. And I went from being like a VP and then like working all these important projects, and on the weekends I would just clean pee and poop all day, and not that it matters, but seeing these animals that had nothing and no voice, and a lot of time had been abused or whatever, something started shifting me. So but only I could have known what was going to help me at that moment, but you have to be your own best friend in a way and say, okay, I need help right now. I either need to tell someone, or I need to loop my best friend in, or if I don't trust anybody right now, like go read a book to an elderly person who has, you know how many elderly people have been left with no family and nobody goes to visit them at all in these convalescent hospitals, and they just lay there in bed every day hoping one person would come by and say hi. And if we had like an exchange program where like kids would have to, you know, read a book or something, like they would have that the youth and the elderly understand that there's a tribal element, and like we're helping each other. And you know, if we have so many kinder ways to build that love again and that respect again. But you know, if we made kids do that, and you know, even if they're depressed, they could have a moment of like, wow, I can actually help another person's life. You know, they don't teach these stuff in school. They don't teach conflict resolution. They don't do volunteer program. They don't make, you know what I mean? It's like, it's literally just heavy stuff, social stuff. They don't teach them how to deal with social stuff, you know, and bullying and things like that. So anyways, there's my doggy.
Huh?
My little doggy.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He was a rescue and he was really abused. Yeah.
Oh. Let me see. I want to make sure that we talked about everything that we needed to talk about. Yeah, I know we went all over. You know, I was like, the whole interview, I felt very like my chest hot, right? Because like I said, it's just, I guess it's a very personal, it's not bad though at all, right? So it just triggered a lot of things for me, obviously.
Yeah, you're just such a bright light. I'm so grateful to know you and have met you and like hear your story as well. And like I said, we're all that bright light. I actually say, like, imagine a star, you know, and the particles of a star, and that it's the brightest light. It's lighter. It's not even a color in the palette, you know, in our palette that we can even imagine. But actually, all of us hold that light inside of us. We really do. So just to remember that when you need it, and don't let that light get extinguished, and just and it vibrates, and it's just full of love. We don't have enough words for love. If I was to, you know, I always say is like, we need more words for love, you know, but just understand it's so full of love and so full of compassion, and it shines bright, and you have a purpose, and we all have a purpose, and we can all raise it up a little bit and just be kinder, have fun. Like,
no, you know what? Like when I was fairly young, and I that's one thing I felt. It was like somehow that act of taking your life, like there's so much energy in that if somehow you could have people be able to see that they could use that energy to, well, because of that. Yeah, that's what it was. It was like about the fear of like, you don't have the fear of death if you're willing to do that. So then why are you afraid? There's something, because I saw that, right? Like there's something that you really want to do. A lot of times it's that, right? You really want to do something in life and you feel like you can't accomplish it, and you can't this, or you're at a horrible job like that, you're miserable.
oh my gosh, you know how many people told me I would never publish anything? Because I actually have only a 9th grade education.
No way.
Yeah, I've been on my own since I was 14. I had to go right to work, and I tried to go to college at the end, you know, trying to rebuild that, but I had a full-time job, and so I didn't have really the greatest grammar skills, and I had to fake it till I made it all the time. And then even like back then, they didn't check, you know, your high school diploma. I would tell them my resume, you know, and stuff. That's why I got to work at all the studios and stuff like that.
Wow.
But I didn't have a college education, so it was really hard to get to the bigger jobs. But I just wanted to write all the time. I love being creative, and I'd write something and I'd send it to an agent or something, and they'd say, don't write anymore.
What?
And I'm like, just be an artist. I'm like, okay. And it would, like, I wouldn't write for a while, and then I would just sit there and go, but I want to. So it was I just finally, as I started to heal, I was like, no, I'm a writer. Okay, there's editors, or there's people that can help me. Just continue. No, I'm not going to let those voices stop me anymore. You know, and people love to judge other people and criticize other people. I you know, that's that part of it's an energy, judging, criticizing. You know, you could decide to take it or let it go. You know, I don't read any like negative comments really. I'm just like, I honestly, I tell everything is out in the open. I have too much to accomplish. You know, if, you know, I'm doing the best I can. I'm not perfect. You know, but I'm living my best life right now because I've healed that. My whole thing is I want people to know that, because I didn't know you could live your life without suicidal ideation, right? So people that have it, it feels like it's so part of them, it's never going to go away. Like, this is me, because it's so ingrained in there. And so what my message, and like I like to get across, is that you don't have to live with it the rest of your life. You can live, you really can get to a place where you never think about it, or it's not a part of your life. I want to be that person that says, I know that for sure for me. I want to be that hope that if they're like, really, I can get rid of that. Yes, you can. You can. Because that's a slow death in its own.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, if you live until you're like at your deathbed and you're like, wow, I never got over my suicidal ideation at 90. I mean, how sad. Because it does stop you from doing it. You can't be in a whole healthy life and have suicidal ideation and be accomplishing what you want to do in life. Because spirit and light, they just want you, they want you to do you have a purpose, you know. Whether
Absolutely.
it's having a baby and being a good mother. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a writer or something. It could just be being a good mother. But, you know.
No, thank you. Honestly, like, thank you. I really love your energy. You're a ball of joy and
Thank you.
no, absolutely. Like,
It's so nice to meet you, and thank you for the opportunity today.
no, thank you. Thank you. So, I'll put any links to, so right now your main focus is the books, and you also teach the.
Yep, I have meditation one on my website. It's $69.99. If someone can't afford it, just email me. I'll send it to them anyways. I mean, I really am trying to make some money because I've been kind of not working and just writing and stuff, and I'm kind of getting to the point where I need to get there. But I still, the whole reason why I picked the Swedenborg Foundation is because it's a nonprofit. And I made them promise that if someone couldn't afford the book, that they would send them a digital copy at least. You know, that's why I didn't go with a traditional publisher on that one, because it's just like, we just need to get this to people that need it, you know?
No, you know what? You just reminded me. There was one time, man, when I was see, and maybe it happened more times than I remember, right? I only remember the big ones, but I remember once feeling like really depressed, and I was watching an infomercial came on like at midnight. And there was this one thing, and back then, like, they were saying they didn't believe in like you taking medication. It was like this whole, and it was a thing of cassettes. That's how long ago it was. It was a cassette thing, like 30 cassettes or
Oh
something.
my goodness.
Yeah, and it was about that, like the whole like, you know, to help you with the depression and this, that, whatever, anything going on, right? And so I called them. I don't know, it was kind of expensive. I don't know if it was a few hundred. And then so I called them and I was like, oh, that's expensive. Like, okay, I'll call again, whatever. And then they sent it to me for free. And it really did help that much. Like, all I did was listen to the first cassette. And that was the crazy thing. All I had to do was listen to the first cassette. And the first cassette, I didn't even listen to all 30 of them. The first cassette was enough to change and then boom, I got out of the whole the little funk I was in, and it was a beautiful thing. So yeah, thank you for that. I'm not to tell you like, oh, give them for free. Like you said, you
No,
gotta.
I know, but if someone's suffering, they don't got $69, you know,
Absolutely.
they're on unemployment or something and they're trying to find a job. Like, I'm not going to not give it to somebody. You know, I want them to be grounded. It'll always come in some other form.
Absolutely. No, so Gina, thank you so much. I'll put all the links for people to get in contact with you in the description.
Thank you.
It's been an honor, and
You too.
yeah, please keep doing what you're doing.
Yep. It comes out June 26th. You can pre-order the book, Surviving Suicidal Ideation. It's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, everywhere. I have the Liberated Healer website and YouTube, and I have meditations on there and anything else. So yeah.
Sounds great. So I'll put all that, and thank you so much. Okay,
Yeah.
it's an honor. Thank you.
Bye.
Life may move fast, or it may move slow. I met a silly man who said he'd make it slow. We look up out towards space, or even at the sky. One day pass away, but never look inside. Breathe in, breathe out. Life is a maze, but we'll figure this out. I mean, human beings, I ain't got no doubt.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sometimes you just feeling it, you know what I'm saying? You just feeling it. And I want to feel this way forever.